The African American Community Partnership Group continues to support you making informed decisions about your health. In doing so, we are revisiting our Eat Well, Live Well series. Diabetes is a leading cause of kidney disease and amputations. In this last episode of the Eat Well, Live Well series, we learned that diabetes can be controlled and you can live well with diabetes. After understanding what diabetes is and how to choose the right foods and beverages, we hope that you can better manage your diabetes or better support a family member with diabetes. I love this episode, and I hope you enjoy it too. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this, our third installment of the Eat Well, Live Well series. My name is Janelle White with the Temp Worker Union Alliance Project, also known as TUOP. I also serve as the lead of the Education and Awareness Subcommittee of the African American Community Partnership Group of Lake County, affectionately known as AACPG. We want to thank you for joining us tonight as we prepare to bring you resources and information about diabetes prevention, a health issue that has disproportionately affected the African American community. So I'm wearing blue tonight in honor of Diabetes Awareness Month, which was November, but it's never too late to bring awareness to this subject matter. In our previous installments of this series, we've addressed heart disease prevention and cancer prevention. We're going to close this series out tonight with our returning panel of experts. First, we'll hear from our AACPG co-chair and Lake County Health Department Clinical Nutrition Team Lead, Demetrius Willis. He'll be providing us with dietary recommendations that can help with diabetes management and prevention. Then, as I'm sure you've guessed by now, Chef Edric Godet is back with us from her kitchen. Chef Edric has over 20 years of experience in the restaurant industry and is co-owner of Gabriel Hall, a New Orleans-inspired venue located in Detroit's West Village. She will follow up with some tasty recipes to help with diabetes prevention and management. I want to welcome both Demetrius and Chef Edric tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being here and volunteering your time and expertise to our viewers and followers. So Demetrius, without further ado, take it away.
All right. So I'm so excited to be here again with everybody. And as you know, this series, if this is your first series of the three that you're able to watch, this is all about listening to your body. You know your body, you know what feels normal and what doesn't feel normal. And if you can pay attention to those cues of your body actually talking to you, and if you can listen to that, you're really going to be able to control, maybe even prevent some of these diseases from striking you or from your family. So today we're going to talk about diabetes and the idea that diabetes, when somebody has diabetes, usually when they pass away, they're not diagnosed with, oh, you died of diabetes. They actually turned out to have passed away because of cardiovascular disease or perhaps of cancer. And diabetes really brings about some of those obstacles with cardiovascular disease. And we're going to really dive into that today.
So Demetrius, let me stop you there for a second, if I may interject. So it's my understanding that there's two types of diabetes, right? There's type 1 and type 2. So could you take a minute and explain the difference? I mean, I think I get it. Type 1 is hereditary, and type 2, you're literally eating your way into having the health issue.
Yeah. So great point. And that's a great starting to define those two. They are different. And type 1 we used to call juvenile onset because we found it with kids. Type 2 was always in adults. Now we can't really say that because now we're finding type 2 in kids. And it is connected with one of the risk factors, which is the weight gain and just the not ideal choices for foods. Now, somebody with type 1 does not produce any insulin. Somebody with type 2 produces some insulin, or they may not produce very little at all, though. And insulin itself comes from your pancreas. Your pancreas sits right behind your rib cage, right around your stomach area. And that pancreas produces that insulin that allows the energy that you ate that now is floating in your blood that we call blood sugar, okay? That energy floating around, your cells want to use it. And that insulin acts as a key to unlock and allows your cells to use that energy. Now, when we said type 1 Type 1 doesn't have these keys. So they have to take medication to be able to use that energy that's sitting in their blood. Type 2 may have to use medication to be able to use it, but there are other ways like exercise and really controlling portions that both of those types want to really grasp onto. And that's some of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Okay. So then that would kind of explain why we're doing prevention and management. So,
Right.
management of type 1, which unfortunately you can't get rid of that, but prevention of type 2. So, then let me ask you a follow up question. Could someone who's been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes eat their way back to health?
That's a tricky question. So type 2, we have been starting to hear this buzz of I've been cured. And I've seen patients, they say, well, no, I don't have it anymore. And we don't say that you've been cured of diabetes because remember, this is an issue with your organ. This wasn't something you just needed to change and everything was going to go back to normal. This was an issue with your organ not being able to put out the amount of insulin that you needed. But if we control the amount of sugar that's sitting in your blood, if you are just producing a little bit of keys, you'll have enough keys to use the energy that's there. And that way you won't have the impact on your system of having too much sugar sitting around. So it comes down to portions. So like you're saying, you can start to change how you eat, control your weight, and some other things that you can do that are going to help you have managed diabetes. Not cured, it'd still be there because if we gave you a soda and some Skittles, your sugar's going to go up. But if you just had a little bit and a little bit, then your sugar might not. And that's called controlling your portions.
Okay. So then the dietary changes would be more so like for someone who maybe was diagnosed as being pre-diabetic, so they don't have type 2 diabetes. They're just on the way to it. But if they make changes in their diet, then they can avoid having the full on diagnosis.
Yes. And here's the coolest part. If you have somebody who has type 2 diabetes, okay, and they start to control their portions and they're able to lose like 5 to 7% of their body weight, then what you'll see is the body starts to kind of react in a good way to say, oh, well, we have less going on, we have less coming in, we have more going out. You're giving us a chance to balance. Thank you. And let's see what we can do. So your pancreas won't be fully recovered. However, you've been giving your pancreas what it needs as far as balance goes. And that allowing your body to kind of reset itself in a way.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much for giving us that clarity
Yeah.
between the two different types, and then type 1 and type 2 versus pre. I mean, it can get all very confusing if you're not well versed in this, but
Yeah.
we're providing this platform here to give people information, empower them with resources, and help them hopefully manage whatever their health issues are as it pertains to the varying types of diabetes, or prevent it altogether.
Yeah. If I can mention, you mentioned pre-diabetes, and I think it's just one of these interesting situations where somebody doesn't have diabetes. So, once you have diabetes, you have it. You're on this cusp where you actually can turn around and go back the other way. I read some statistics from the CDC, and they said 35% of adults have pre-diabetes. And 15% of those individuals don't even know they have diabetes. And that's the scary thing, that you can have prediabetes and totally be oblivious to it, have no idea. And you're missing that opportunity to kind of turn things around. When we talk about the sugar and people check their sugars, a normal sugar might be 2 hours after you eat, your blood sugar would be around 120. And somebody who has prediabetes 2 hours after you eat, your blood sugar might be around 140, 160, whereas somebody with diabetes, it could be over 200 that you have diabetes, blood sugar levels just running through the roof. And that effect over time of that prediabetes and having that elevated sugar continues to kind of crack down on your pancreas till eventually it says, you know what, I tried, I just can't do this anymore. And that's when we move into the diagnosis of diabetes.
Mm-hmm. So then let me ask you this. What are some of the things that people can do to kind of turn it around as far as like changes in their diet, dietary restrictions? Is it as simple as just reducing your sugar intake?
It's so there's a lot of ways you can look at this as far as food goes, because food, we always say food is feelings. So we want to make sure we stay in the realm where somebody's comfortable. But the first thing is going to be is weight loss. If they can get that weight off of them, that will lower their risk. And mind you, that would be between exercise and what they're putting in their tummy. And remember, if your body only needs this much sugar and you're taking in this much sugar, your body's only going to use what it needs. It's going to store this for later. And depending on your genetics, it's going to store in your tummy, in your butt, in your hips, or in your midsection where all your organs are trying to work. And just picture a room, an office where you're trying to work and somebody keeps bringing stuff in there and bringing stuff in there and they're setting it on your desk and they're putting it around your chair. And it's going to limit what you're able to do. Now picture the other way. Somebody, you're trying to do that work and it's so cluttered in there, you can't even see the screen, and somebody starts to take those things out of your office. Now you have the space to work. And that's kind of what you're doing with your body when you start to lose weight. You're giving it the space it needs to really do what it needs to do. And that's only going to happen by cutting back on your calories, choosing a meal plan that you can follow, because we have a lot of people who choose this meal plan or this supplement or whatever, and they can't follow that long term. You want to set your body up for a long-term plan, not a short-term one. And one other thing that people forget about is sleep and stress management. And it's something that we take for granted. Oh, I don't need that much sleep. Or people who are making it in this world, all they needed was 3 hours. No, they needed way more than that. And go check their health record to see what else is going on while they were making it in the world. So sleep, stress management, having a good meal plan you can follow, and weight loss would be my top recommendations for preventing diabetes.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned favoring exercise over dietary changes and restrictions. So how often would you recommend that a person exercise as it pertains to like turning, the corner, like they're headed towards diabetes, they're pre-diabetic, they don't want to be diagnosed with it. So then what do they need to start doing right now as it pertains to exercise?
So I would recommend that people go, or the individual goes with what they're most comfortable with. If you can do exercise and diet, you should do it. I just have some clients that are like, yeah, don't touch my food, but I am willing to sweat a little bit. I'm like, okay, let's go sweat some. And when we talk about that, what we want to do is we want to get our heart rate up. And I want you to do something that's going to make your heart go a little faster. And that means that your heart needed to get more oxygen to your muscles. So that means I know you're working your muscles more than you usually do. I tell people to start with walking. And if you can go for walking 15 minutes one way, 15 minutes another, then that's a great way to kind of stack up because you have a goal. And I think a real goal is going to have numbers attached to it. So you want to go exercise, you need to have a time frame on it. You need to have a number of days you're going to do it. It needs to be that structured. Because if we say, I'm going to work out 2 days this week, before you know it, you sit down on Monday, it's going to be Sunday. And you're like, you know what? I never even did anything. I meant to do that. It's got to be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to work out for 30 minutes at 3:30. Boom. Or at 6 o'clock when I get off work. Boom. You have a plan and you're accountable to it. But when Monday passes, you still got Tuesday. You still got that makeup day. You have to have numbers attached to any goal you set.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are doing the keto diet and low carb diet. What do you think about that? I mean, some people post that they have had success with turning the corner and backing away from being on the road to type 2 diabetes. Is that a healthy alternative to exercise, or coupled with exercise. Would you recommend that?
Well, I always recommend exercise. I always recommend exercise. So we'll look at exercise one. We'll look at if you're ready for food, the other pile. Now, I know people who are on these very low carb diets and they're miserable. They're miserable because all the foods they used to eat, they can't eat them anymore. And remember, we want to have a plan that you can follow long term. Carbohydrates are the preferred fuel choice for both your brain and your muscles. So think about if you take away the preferred fuel source for something, it's going to start using other things that it's not necessarily made to use. In this case, it's going to use something else for energy like fat, muscle, whatever, that your body wasn't made to use it that way. And it's going to make your body function a little differently. So any diet or any meal plan that restricts foods that you know that are good for you, like fruits, like vegetables, like fiber, these things that I talked about all this time that you know you got to get in your system because there's so many benefits from them. And then you jump on a meal plan that says, no, you can't have that. To you, that's just think that doesn't make sense. Those things are here for us. So I really don't recommend, I don't prescribe anything having to do with very low carb diets. Now, I do talk about portion controls, and there are different fruits and vegetables that you want to choose that are better than others. So just for example, you have a fruit, so an apple. Now, an apple is a great option for a fruit because the skin has the fiber. Your body can use 100% of it for something. So when you eat it, your body's going to use it. And then you have other fruits. Now, I'm going to tell you that all fruits aren't the same. I think a banana has fiber. It's here in the skin, but we don't eat the skin. We get rid of it. Same thing with an orange. We get rid of it. So these aren't as good fruit sources or choices than fruits you can eat the skin with, like a pear, like a peach, like an apple, these different ones that even grapes, as long as you watch the number that you're eating, I think these are all good choices. Berries are fantastic because you have the little seeds and the little fiber that's in them, and you're eating the skin technically with them. So there's some that you want to choose better than others. And that's why I talk about when you want a meal plan, it should have just those rich things that you know are going to help fight against cancer and heart disease and give you what you need.
So typically there's good carbs versus bad carbs, or good sugar versus bad sugar.
I don't use the term bad, I just say that they're better choices. So I'm not saying you should never eat fruit and you should never eat an orange and you shouldn't eat mangoes or watermelons. Think about a watermelon. You take the fiber off of a watermelon. That's why you can eat almost a whole watermelon in a sitting. But if you ate the fiber with it, not saying that you need to eat the rind of the watermelon, but that's the part that fills you up. That's the part that gives you the benefit, that fiber part. So no, watermelon isn't a bad fruit. It's just one that you want to watch the portions for.
Okay. Well, I think I definitely have a better understanding of the differences between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and well, as they say, you don't say, but as they say, good sugar versus bad sugar. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we switch on over to Chef Egypt?
So let me throw one more thing out there that I've been encountering over the years. And it's that situation where somebody's parent got diagnosed with diabetes and the parent hasn't made any changes. And they're just worried about their parents and they're on them. And dad, why are you eating that? Mom, you need to get up and go do this. You need to exercise. The doctor told you that. What is this doing in here? Is this regular sugar or is this sugar-free sugar? Like all of these arguments that people have, and it really creates chaos in the family. Whereas the loved ones are trying to share this message of, I don't want you to die. I want you to be around. I want you to be healthy. And our parents are saying, food is love. And this is how I've loved you all this time. And I'm not going to change that just because something the doctor said. And what I would say and recommend for those families in this situation is, number one, be patient. A lot of the patients I see that have this diagnosis, they just aren't ready to accept that diagnosis. Now, mind you, it's important that they do, but there are ways that you can kind of bring them around. So be patient with them. When you go out to eat with them, eat the foods that you know you should be eating with them and that you know that they should be eating. Understand that food is that feeling. And there are different ways that you can show love. So maybe instead of food, maybe there's another way you can show them love. And I would also say join them. So don't sit with them, right? And they're eating something that's controlled carbs, and you're over here eating all the carbs in the world. How would that feel? Diabetes is one of the hardest diets out there. You know, we talk about keto and we talk about all these other things. No, these diets that we have to put with people based on the diagnosis that they have, because they don't have an option of not following this. So somebody who's on a keto diet, they're doing it because they wanted to do it. So they can have a cheat day. It's a little harder for somebody with diabetes. And the last thing I would say is for somebody in that situation, whether it's your parent or sometimes it's a parent and their child got diagnosed with diabetes and they don't know how this even happened, learn with them, read books with them. They have community classes that are free most of the time that you can go to class with them and sit in, especially now with Zoom and with these virtual platforms. You can be right there with them in the class and work through understanding not only the challenges, but the successes they can find with the numbers of goals, whether it's a goal, the number goal of blood sugar, or it's whether it's walking 15 minutes. If you can be with them on that journey, it's going to be a really big deal. And that's how we can really come together when we get that diagnosis. That's sad. It's a sad diagnosis of getting diabetes, but it doesn't mean it's over. It's just a way to grow. And the last thing I'll say is if your child, if you're an offspring or a child and your parent got diagnosed with diabetes, keep in mind, this is hereditary. So your risk just went up. So it's pretty good chance that this is something that an obstacle of prediabetes that you might be encountering right now. You just don't know it. Remember that 15%. So I would definitely recommend that you try to learn about it and make changes for yourself. And they'll also be making changes for them. Thanks, Janelle.
Okay. No, thank you, Demetrius. Thank you so much for sharing that wealth of information with us today. And I'd like to take the time now to those of you who may just be joining us, is scrolling by and have popped on. And what is this? Well, welcome again to the third installment of our Eat Well, Live Well series. Tonight, we are discussing diabetes management and prevention. Our guests tonight are Demetrius Willis and Chef Edric Godet. So we invite you to like, comment, and share this event on your networks, and go back and watch the previous two if you haven't seen them. Now we're going to transition over to Chef Edric in her kitchen. Welcome back, Chef Edric. It's a pleasure to have you with us again. I can't wait to see what you're whipping up tonight.
It's always a pleasure. It is always a pleasure. I really enjoy doing these installments with Demetrius. I also learn so much every time I do one of these, demos and discussions. So it's always a great time.
Awesome. So what are you going to be cooking for us today?
So, as Demetrius stated, diabetes is a difficult diagnosis, particularly when it pertains to food, especially as we get around the holidays, right? Holidays is a time, like he said, food is love. So holidays is a time where we share a lot of food. It's very celebratory. And it's also a time that is hard on someone that has a restricted diet, particularly diabetes, because of the amount of sugar and carbohydrates and things like that that we usually intake around the holidays. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to kind of do a couple things, show a couple different recipes in ways that, you don't feel as restricted. You're still, it's still decadent. It's still flavorful. It's still tasty. So you're not just, kind of sitting in a corner as everyone else is indulging. You're able to have really great and really flavorful, food options, but that it's also helpful to either diabetes prevention or management.
Yes.
So
life is not over. We can still enjoy the food.
Yes. And I love food. So I definitely want my food to taste good, but I also want to, of course, be healthy. And so, diabetes is definitely in my family. And so it's something that I want to prevent as well. So these are recipes that I, enjoy at home with my family as well. So.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I
Yeah.
can't wait to see. Shall we get started?
Yes. So the first recipe we have, as we know, one of our favorites for the holidays is mac and cheese.
Yes.
All right. Listen, I'm not trying to touch nobody's mac and cheese. Okay. What I will say is that there is an alternative that is still very indulgent. It's still very cheesy and it tastes very good. Now, some people call it cauliflower mac and cheese, and that's cool. But what I will say is, if you go to Big Mama's house, right, and you telling the whole family that you got the mac and cheese and you show up with some cauliflower, your family will not be happy. All right, because they were expecting mac and cheese, not cauliflower. So we will call this cauliflower au gratin.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna leave the mac and cheese alone. We're gonna call it cauliflower au gratin. But again, same great taste. All you're doing is, instead of the pasta, we're using cauliflower, which again, as Demetrius stated, fiber is important. So it's adding some fiber and reducing some of those carbohydrates that would normally be in mac and cheese. The flavor is still there. As you'll see, some of the other ingredients are the same, and it is super tasty. So
well, you had me at cheese, so I am ready to see what this is all about.
So the first thing that I did, first thing we want to do is just a regular 8x8 pan. I'm going to use, instead of using, butter, we're just going to use a healthy fat. So I have some avocado oil spray. Now you can use another kind of cooking spray, olive oil. I'm really falling in love with avocado oil. So I'm just spraying in my pan with a little bit of avocado oil. And then my cauliflower. This is just one head of cauliflower that I took, I put in some boiling water for 5 minutes. All right. So it's still, a little tender. It's not all crumbly. It still has some texture to it. But this is boiled cauliflower. All right. So we have those things prepared. What I'm going to do is, in my pan, I'm just going to add 1 cup of heavy cream.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is just 2 ounces of cream cheese. So that block of cream cheese that you have, that's 8 ounces. So all you're going to use is 1/4 of that. All right, just a corner. So this is 2 ounces of cream cheese and 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. All right, and that's going to add some really great flavor to our mac and cheese, that Dijon mustard. Okay. All right, so we're going to get that on the stove, and that's going to be, bubbling, and we're going to let that cream cheese melt. Now, once we do that, we get our cream cheese melted, right? And we have this nice creamy sauce.
Oh, that looks really delicious.
Right? To that, we're going to add our 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder. That's it. All right, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper, 1/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder. All right, we're going to add that. And then we're going to add our cup of shredded cheddar cheese. We're just going to mix this up until our cheese melts. And you see, I took this off of the fire. We don't need to keep it on there. The heavy cream and the cream cheese is hot enough to melt that cheese as we stir. Right? So we're just going to stir that until our cheddar cheese is all melted, where, as you can see, it's nice and melted, really nice thick cream sauce. And to that, we're just going to add our cauliflower. So again, very similar to your mac and cheese. All we did was we just substituted. Instead of the pasta, we're using cauliflower, which is, again, added fiber, some added nutrition in there. All right, so I'm just folding that cauliflower into my cheese sauce. I'm going to take my pan that I just sprayed, transfer that into my pan. And all we're going to do, spread that. All we're going to do is top it with just 1/4 cup of cheddar cheese. And we're just going to throw that in the oven at 375 for 15 minutes. just so that it's nice and bubbly. It browns at the top. And what you have left is this beautiful cauliflower au gratin. And doesn't that look just like mac and cheese?
Wow, it does.
Right?
I would be happy with that. I
Absolutely.
would.
Yep. So I'm just gonna throw some fresh parsley on top of there, right? But this is a great alternative. Again, it's still indulgent, it's very decadent, it's very flavorful, and it's not completely taking you away from the table to where once your family starts enjoying that mac and cheese, you can have something just as delicious. Again, just increasing that fiber intake, reducing some of those carbohydrates.
Awesome.
All right.
I'm gonna have to try and make that.
It is delicious. I made a pan last night. Yeah. It's almost gone.
I was gonna say how much is left. I don't imagine much.
It's not much. And even my mother, she ate some and she thought it was delicious. As well. So this will definitely be, I think this is going to be a holiday favorite now.
It looks very rich and decadent, but without all of the guilt that's typically associated with those types of dishes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't add any butter. There was no addition of eggs or anything, but it was still, again, very nice and creamy. And not even a lot of salt. I didn't put salt water with my cauliflower. Just added a pinch of salt to add in there because, as we know, cheese already has a lot of sodium. So there's no need to add any more, but adding the flavor components by the teaspoon of Dijon mustard and then the garlic powder really adds to kind of build on those flavors, which is so important.
Awesome. And for those of you watching who want to try this at home, Chef Edith has been gracious enough to share her recipes with us from all 3 of these Eat Well, Live Well installments. So we'll be sure to make those available on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/AACPG Lake County. So you heard it here. We're going to give you the recipe so you can try this at home. All right, yes. Take it away, Chef Edric.
All right, so the next recipe we have is, again, holidays can be very difficult. And so just because you're controlling your portion sizes and maybe your carb intake, your calorie intake, and even your sugar intake, again, doesn't mean that you can't enjoy desserts. Because we also know that sweets is a very big part of celebrations and particularly the holidays. So what I wanted to show you today is a dark chocolate brownie. All right. So dark chocolate has less sugar than milk chocolate. It's just as delicious. And it's said to help with even, insulin resistance. So we're going to start with, avocado, right? So I know it's like, wait, you put avocado in brownies? Yes. So this is a healthy fat we have. So this is 1/4 of a cup of mashed avocado. This will make it nice and creamy. And then, again, healthy fat avocado oil. So this is 1/4 of a cup of avocado oil that we're starting with.
So this is like taking the place of butter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So we're just going to whisk that, our avocado oil and our avocados just until it's creamy and smooth. Because we don't want, is to bake this and then there's like green chunks.
Yeah, no.
Once we cut into the brownie, right? That'll definitely spoil it. So we just want it to be smooth. And I guarantee you, if you made this, no one would ever know that there was avocado in here. Okay. There's no taste. There's no kind of flavor. So we have that pretty nice and smooth there. So now to this, I have 1 cup of whole wheat flour.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so just going to add that. This is a 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so no additional sugar there. This is 3/4 of a cup of unsweetened applesauce.
Ooh.
So again, as Demetrius talked about the fiber, right? So unsweetened applesauce, and this also is going to make it nice and moist and creamy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got
Chef Edric, could I use what are some of those sugarless flour substitutes? Almond flour and coconut flour. Would it alter the consistency of the finished product too much?
A little bit, but not much. And it really depends on your preference. I know some people that they use the same recipe where they're using avocados and even beets to make brownies, and they use cassava flour.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I do like coconut flour and I like almond flour for baking.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it depends on kind of like you said, the consistency, kind of those flavor profiles, because it will carry some of those flavors, as well as allergens are very
Oh,
important to keep in
right.
mind too, right? So you're using almond flour, just be mindful of anybody that you're feeding that might have a nut allergy.
Okay. Thank you for pointing that out.
Oh, absolutely. So, and then this is just a half cup of raw sugar. So
Mm-hmm.
this is raw turbinado sugar
Mm-hmm.
that's going in there. And then we have a fourth of a teaspoon of salt and a fourth of a teaspoon of baking soda.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to give it some rise. All right. And so we are just going to just whisk that all together. We're going to add 3/4 of a cup of water. So the applesauce is not only going to make it nice and moist, but it also is a substitute for in baking. You can use applesauce as a substitute for eggs, and also a substitute for sugar.
Okay.
So that unsweetened applesauce still gives it kind of that sweet flavor that we're looking for without that added sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm just gonna whisk that until it's smooth.
Looks like regular brownie mix to me.
I was gonna say, doesn't it look like just regular brownie mix, right? Really can't tell any difference, right? The consistency is the same, right? That's regular brownie mix, all right? And then, again, dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate. It definitely has less sugar. So we're just gonna put some dark chocolate chips.
Oh.
All right, and we're just gonna fold that in. And then we are going to take our other 8x8 pan. Again, spray that with some avocado oil. And we're just going to transfer that and bake this at 350 for about 25 minutes. So we want it to, stick a toothpick in the center, have it mostly clean. Of course, we still kind of want like a nice cakey, moist texture. But yeah, you would just put this in the oven. Again, looks just like brownie mix, right?
Yeah.
Homemade brownie mix, right? And so here you have.
Wow.
I mean, these are absolutely, it's another pan I got eaten. I mean, they're just so nice and moist.
Wow, those
right?
look amazing.
They're delicious. They're absolutely delicious. And everything that you did by adding the avocado oil, the applesauce, that just made it super moist and creamy. So it's just absolutely perfect. I mean, these are just great. If you want to be festive, these are just some peppermint chunks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is absolutely a really great lower sugar dessert, particularly for the holidays. And honestly, your family wouldn't be able to tell that it was any lower sugar. So, you could bring it as a dessert and no one would know the difference.
Wow, that looks awesome. I'm
It's
definitely
great.
going to try both of those recipes. And if you would please give our viewers your social media, anywhere where they can get in contact with you and connect with you, and of course tell us more about your restaurant. Those who might be in the Detroit area, we want to encourage them to support you.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on the restaurant on Instagram at Gabriel Hall DET. So that is GABRIELHALLDET. And that is Gabriel Hall Detroit. We're an upcoming Creole and Cajun restaurant, bar, and music venue in Detroit. So we are currently available for caterings, and we're getting ready for the holiday season as well. So that's where you can find us. Also, we have a website, GabrielHallDET.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate you taking the time out to be with us again today and for all three installments. I can't wait to try the recipes. Some of the other ones from the previous installments were also a hit as well. So, again, thank you, Chef Egypt, for being here with us.
Absolutely, anytime. It's been a pleasure.
I'm glad. So Demetrius, I actually want to come back to you because we actually had a question that we didn't get to during your presentation. So actually, what are the symptoms of diabetes?
Good question. Good question. Um, how's your body talking to you? Let you know something's not right. For diabetes, you're going to start having blurry vision. Remember that sugar is sitting around inside your body. It can start affecting your vision. You might start going to the bathroom a lot. Now, remember, you don't have the insulin to use the extra blood sugar that's just sitting around. So what your body does is say, oh my gosh, we got to get rid of this stuff. It's starting to affect us. Pee it out. And that's what happens. You start peeing it out. And you might have heard people getting their ketones checked. And peeing out and going frequent urination is actually a symptom of diabetes as well, connected to extra hunger, being tired, being thirsty, having dry mouth. All those things are symptoms. Tingling and numbness to your fingertips, your toes, even up to the ankle, maybe even the calf area. You might find that tingling and numbness. And then lastly, slow healing wounds. So you might get a bruise or a cut, and that extra sugar sitting around is slowing down the wound healing process. You'll really know if you have diabetes when you go see your medical provider and they do a test, and that will be able to tell you, yes, this is what's going on inside of you.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for providing us with that information. So, if anyone out there is watching or a loved one you know of has experienced some of those symptoms, we definitely encourage you to make an appointment with your primary health care provider and go ahead and get tested. It's better to know. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. Wishing it away is not going to make it go away. Get tested, make adjustments in your lifestyle and in your diet so that you can manage it if you have it, or if you can prevent it if you're only pre-diabetic so that you can avoid it altogether. So yeah, we definitely encourage you guys to do that and make sure that you're aware of your status as it pertains to diabetes. So did either of you have anything else that you wanted to say before we go?
Demetrius, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, so how you talked about a little bit about fiber intake. And I guess my question is, how important is fiber intake to like diabetes prevention? And then is it, can I take some Metamucil or like natural fiber? Is there a difference?
Okay. So good question. Natural is always going to be better. So regardless of the question you ask me, I'm always going to say natural is better. Should I take a multivitamin or do I have to get all this stuff in? No, get all the stuff in you can. Okay. Multivitamin is our backup plan when we can't get what we need. Same thing with the Metamucil or the supplements. What I'd like people to do is just start to focusing more on the labels. So, for example, if you buy anything that has a grain basis for it, right? Bread, even chips, anything like that, you want to look for 2.5 grams or more of fiber in that. So look at the label under carbohydrates, it'll say fiber there. For fiber, it should say 2.5. And that's how you add up. And mind you, usually you don't just take a big chunk of fiber in, it's sprinkled throughout the day. Beans are a great source. I mentioned fruits, definitely vegetables are going to have more fiber in them. Whole grain bread. And remember, you'll transition to these things. So it might taste a little funny at first, but you'll get to the point where it feels good to eat healthy, just like the recipes you made. When people eat those, they feel good eating them. And actually, like brownies or other things that you make, you can sprinkle some of that supplement you're talking about. You can sprinkle it in those things if you want to kind of sneak some extra fiber in your diet. But definitely natural is going to be better than the other way of buying all these fiber supplements. Not to say that you should never have fiber supplements, because some of us need them. But if you can buy things that have it naturally in them already, it's going to be a better choice.
Awesome. I just wanted to get clarity on that for sure. And I'm glad you mentioned definitely the whole grains, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to use whole wheat flour in this particular recipe, because it's a great way to kind of hide it without tasting it. You're not going to
Yeah.
taste the whole wheat, because there is a difference. Um, but it's an easy way to kind of make that transition.
Yeah. Yeah. The simpler we can make it, the better. I know you and I talked earlier about, hey, what about light Cool Whip and having some blackberries and some raspberries, and just having a small portion of that. Those are great options for something that tastes good and is good for you. And it just feels good to eat something that your body can use all of it for something.
Absolutely. And even with the brownies, right? You could, cut that in half and then add some berries to that with a little dollop of, like you said, sugar-free, whipped cream or something like that. So
Yeah,
you're still adding some of those fresh, fruits along with it. And you're going to feel full because of that fiber in the process.
it's good. This has been fun. Like these three series have been totally cool. I'm so glad we wrapped things up with Janelle. I'm back on the map with Miss Edric, and this has been fun.
It
This
most
has been a joy.
certainly has. It most certainly has. And, again, on behalf of AACPG, I want to thank you both for volunteering your time and your expertise to these subject matters that are prevalent in the African American community. Again, for those of you who may have missed the previous two installments or are late coming to this one, this is the Eat Well, Live Well series. It's 3 parts. So definitely we encourage you to visit our Facebook page and check them out, watch them. There's some good stuff in there, great information from Demetrius, as well as some wonderful recipes for you all to try at home with your loved ones and your family during this holiday season. So again, my name is Janelle White. On behalf of AACPG, we want to wish you a safe, healthy, happy holiday season. We hope that you'll connect with us on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/AACPG, Lake County, and also on Instagram, www.instagram.com/AACPG, Lake County. Again, thank you for taking the time to tune in and watch this event. Thank you, Demetrius and Chef Edric. Happy
Yes, happy
holidays,
holidays.
everyone.
Bye bye.
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 Thank you.